I have a second brain and it's an extension of me. If I was an alien and I came into the public education system, I will ask, what is it for? I am privileged to go to school, but I hate complaining as a student, and I think about it. Personal knowledge management is a story
of how I was a student who was just studying in school and
grown into an individual who begins to think for herself.
Welcome back, and if you're new here, nice to meet you. My name is Priscilla, and everything is growing at an exponential speed, like our information. The complexity and abundance of choices is just overwhelming. And I have a lot of issues with self-doubting from getting overwhelmed almost all the time. I'm ready to take a gap year. This is freedom coming. Stepped over it. I shifted my focus from school studying to learning outside of school.
School and I have
a really love-hate relationship. I love studying outside of school because there's no test, but I love making YouTube videos and applying things that I've learned from books, blogs, and random places on the internet.
This kept me thinking why the education system existed. What's the meaning of tests? Sometimes I just learn for a test and not think, why?
What are the consequences of copying things verbatim without processing them? I figured out that the cost of copying things verbatim and not having a clear mind is that I will be easily persuaded by things that I'm presented with. Consider each person reads around 17 newspapers a day on average. I cannot pay for a price of not having clarity in thinking. We need to have clear as mud judgment. As Naval Ravikant defines it, wisdom is knowing the consequences of your decisions, and judgment is applying those wisdom to real life. And remember the videos I've talked about that curiosity guides me?
Sniff.
Is this where I'm supposed to be guided?
Where's the curiosity going? Woo!
Sometimes I might even fall into authority bias or availability bias. Authority bias means that I'll have a higher tendency to believe in what the authorities' opinions are. There are many self-claimed people as scientists and experts, but are they truly one? We should clarify, are their expertise really true as what they have claimed themselves? And then the second one is availability bias. Availability bias means that there is a distortion in my thinking that I will only use information that is readily available to me. So in this case, if curiosity guides me,
hey, ignorance, hi.
Ignorance is bliss.
No. School doesn't always tell me why and under what context I would use math theorems. Education system developed as a product of industrialization.
The thing with outside of school is that I can make anything on my own. I can do anything I want. We all value freedom. We don't have curriculums involved and have a thick syllabi to follow. And freedom means that I don't need to be controlled by the inner critic voice and my abusive parent.
If you don't finish this test, you will be a failure. So push through it. Okay,
what should I do? How should I customize a curriculum for myself for learning outside of school, where I found my passion of learning and then recycled it back into schools? I was scared that if I built a system that failed, all my time and effort will go wasted. In a perfect world, a perfect student, a perfect curriculum with a perfect expert for me to follow just doesn't exist. And this video will be pointless. So now we are welcoming that inner critic voice of saying that you are never good enough.
I've found
Tiago Forte's building a second brain. $1,500 for one cohort session. I was so tempted to buying it, but I realized that I have the abilities to self-learn. The point of no return is I decided not to pay for this course and just dive all in with researching my favorite sources for learning how to build systems for personal knowledge management are a book called How to Take Smart Notes and Zettelkasten from Niklas Luhmann. He is a German sociologist who published around 30-something books and hundreds of articles, and he does not have an assistant. Zettelkasten. It means slip box in German. It is a personal knowledge management system where you link your new notes to your old notes.
after tons of existential crisis and trial and errors, this is the definition.
So personal knowledge management will be defined as the act of organizing information that I have consumed and digesting it as personal wisdom and will be applied to real-life problems to make accurate judgments. In a more philosophical term, it is how I make sense of the world around me. The best analogy that I can give you is maison en place, and I think the French are screaming. I wish I was a romantic French girl. This French means that everything in place. This term exists in the French cuisine. When a chef had created the bowls, ingredients, and pots for the meal, the chef can just cook directly without having to prepare the meal, and it saves time. With personal knowledge management, we can have a pre-library of thoughts, and depending on what I'm cooking and what problem I'm solving, the ingredients can look very different from me and you, because we all like to eat different types of food. So like playing a game, there are also 4 levels with personal knowledge management. I have to follow those 4 steps to build a robust personal knowledge management system. And yes, you can apply those 4 principles to yours too. They are very universal. First one is capture. This is the stage where we'll make fleeting notes when you are reading from a highlight or a quote that resonates or inspires us. So in this stage, take notes that are short, selective, and in your own words. We are applying active learning here. No worries, we're gonna process to the next step.
As we collect our ideas and notes, it's okay that not every note goes to the next processing level. We can delete ideas that we re-encounter and move ideas up the pyramid to be more processed.
The second step is writing declarative titles from those fleeting notes. From those atomic pieces of notes, some of them might fall into similar categories, and we can group them together and write a declarative title. By declarative title, I mean use full sentences to describe your concept that you have collected from, and give credit and reference to the original place we have got the piece of concept oriented at this level. And then the third step that we're going to move up is connecting those concept-oriented notes.
For example, if I came across this paper, do I put it under math or neuroscience?
Instead of asking myself, like in the old system, what subject of this note will fall under,
I would ask myself,
under what context or situation I would retrieve this knowledge. This is as Charlie Munger says,
pay no attention to the territorial boundaries of academic disciplines and just grab the big ideas that I could.
Basic concepts can be very fluid in terms of how I can apply them. So we can apply concepts from physics and neuroscience to maybe something in daily life or even business and economics. If you're just starting out this new process, like I did half a year ago, you can just leave the notes as the declarative titles. Your note structure will slowly emerge based on your contents that you have consumed. If you like neuroscience recently, your piles of notes will grow in that area and title that branch as neuroscience. And then the fourth one is applying your knowledge to problems that you have encountered. And then remember that we have categorized our notes based on concepts. This is where the system truly shines. Under different contexts, you will know what notes to retrieve. I do not have to remember where I have consumed my sources, as I can just search it up, and I love how everything is digitalized at my fingertips.
Besides applying knowledge, I have learned to consider other points of view. Here is also a playground of creativity, because Steve Jobs said creativity is just connecting things.
And any system that I have designed should follow those 4 levels of personal knowledge management. As an individual, I search for truth, and a group search for consensus. There is a constant struggle between those 2 forces. Should I follow a group and people on the internet, or should I have an individuality? And after PKM and those basic principles are defined from Zettelkasten, it's still very overwhelming to wrap around those 4 simple concepts and just putting around this huge system that is operating some people's life right now. There are so many workflows out there. I have a tool, but it is so hard to start.
Picking a workflow or an app is like picking an axe.
We don't want an axe that is so sharp that we will just waste our time.
Maintaining the sharpness.
Or an axe that is so dull that I have to spend hours and hours to learn and sharpen it. With those 4 principles of Zettelkasten and building a second brain and finding an app that works for myself and not getting overwhelmed with so many updating functionalities of Remnote, I have found my sweet spot. The system will get better and better as it fails more.
Oh, the education system, I love you. What did you prepare me for? Educated part of me out of creativity, but now I have regained the playground of creativity in personal knowledge management.
And whenever I'm faced with problems like how should I talk, how should I socialize, people tell me this is life, baby. People don't give you a second chance in the real world. Parts of the real world do assess people through passing a license test, through socializing, decision making, management, and doing your job at work. Not all of those can be evaluated with a test. We can only try our best to not make mistakes from designing a system, but finding a perfect system does not exist. I've been updating my PKM system along the way. If I look at my past self and I don't feel dumb from my present self, it means that I have not grown. I have learned not to afraid failure, and in this skill of PKM, it should be a skill that must be diligently practiced like a musician or an athlete. Apparently, somehow knowledge workers do things in an ad hoc. Knowledges will not make me smarter unless I know how to apply them. And I'm sure that everyone like you who's watching the video can be smart. In the end, knowledge does not fulfill the thirst of the soul. A grateful heart does. Check out this video on how I use other apps with Remnote to streamline my workflow of note-taking. And thank you so much for watching. Be ordinarily mindful and curiously fearless. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!